It's the Brad and John Show.
The Brad and John Show. This is segment B block, whatever you want to call it, for Tuesday, January 14th. And this will be our last live break this morning because I got to duck out of here early. Okay, John, first off, I sent an article to Mike Elam this morning, something that I wanted him to see, and he sent me back a nice little text saying that, you know what was a big deal for him last night? St. Charles County Council meeting last night. You know what happened there?
No, what happened?
He got elected. Let me look at his official new title. He got elected chairman of the council.
Oh, nice. Very nice.
So, Mike, see, here's the difference between Mike Elam. You say, Mike, in 2026, what do you want to do? And he says, I want to be elected to be the next county executive. If you ask Bill Eigel, hey, Bill, in 2026, what do you want to do? Well, I don't really know yet. I might want to be chairman of the St. Charles County Library District. I might want to be, another state rep, or maybe I'm going to be in D.C. helping Donald Trump. You know what I mean? Mike Elam has a direction. Bill Eigel doesn't.
Can I disagree with you?
Go ahead.
Bill Eigel has a direction, and it's up. Okay? So first of all, let's just level set there. Bill Eigel wants to move up. Bill Eigel could choose to run for state chair of the Missouri Republican Party. And Brad, if he thought, I really want to be county exec, but maybe as a long shot, I could become Missouri Republican Party chair. I don't think I'll go around telling everybody that I'm running for county exec, or else people on the fence for Missouri Republican Party chair might think, no, Bill's fine. Bill's going to run for county exec. Let's elect somebody else Missouri Republican Party chair. You get what I'm saying, Brad?
Okay, let's go back in time and you meet this guy by the name of Elon Musk, and you say to him, hey, dude, what do you want to do? Well, I don't know. I was thinking about maybe making an electric car, but then again, I don't know. Maybe I'll become a Playboy's, a Playmate, or a Playgirl centerfold, or I mean, what? See, give me somebody who's telling you where they're headed, and I appreciate that. It's if I run into you at Schnucks in the morning, and I say, hey, John, what are you doing today? Well, I don't really know. I may go to lunch today. I may not. I may go home and make a couple phone calls, or I may go to the gym. Which one of those two is the best John Combest?
Agree with you for as it relates to me and as it relates to you. But if you're Bill Eigel, Brad, you're not going to step on one of your campaigns. Now, here's what I would expect. Once we get past the next few weeks and we're going to figure out whatever happens with Missouri Republican Party chairman, it's widely considered that former Lieutenant Governor Peter Kinder and a super attorney from Columbia named Jennifer Bukowski would become chair and vice chair of the Missouri Republican Party. Brad, I think after we get past February 1st, we'll probably hear from Bill Eigel.
So you're saying in another 2 weeks, essentially, another 15, 16 days?
Yeah,
something
I
like
would
that?
say pretty soon. Now, here's the thing. I mean, I have no idea what Bill Eigel is going to do, but I would just say he wouldn't. If he was working and his team was working behind the scenes to get votes to be Missouri Republican Party chair, I wouldn't want anybody thinking that I was really interested in running for county exec. You get what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying.
John, you're not going to believe it. I just got a text from Bill Eigel.
Oh, yeah?
It says, Brad, I will make my announcement on February 2nd. I will come out of my hole, and depending upon whether or not I see a shadow, I will decide what I want to do. Okay, Bill, got it.
And that's actually a promo for a skylight business
Yeah.
because you can't see your shadow inside the house unless you have skylight.
Okay.
Bill Eigel's always thinking. Go ahead, Brad.
An article on St. Louis PR. John, I have to tell you, I've gone to stlouispublicradio.org, St. Louis STLPR.org almost every day now. And
because let me interrupt, Brad. You are the definition of a masochist. You love to do things that cause you pain. Listen, I go there every morning as well. I go there later in the day too. And it's so painful, but we put ourselves through it, don't we?
It's a news staff of 34 people, and you listen to the radio, there's only like two of them who are ever on the radio, not counting Scott Rosenbaum, or Rosenbaum. I keep making Jason, excuse me. I'll get it straightened out. Jason Rosenbaum. I get the Scotts and the Jasons and the Bloms and the Blooms all mixed up. Okay. If you detract from him, we kidded about this a couple weeks ago, but I really think it's true. There's a thing in management or a lot of different things called the 80-20 rule, the idea being like, one of the examples I always give, that 80% of the planes that were shot down by the Americans were shot down by 20% of the pilots. In other words, there's an inequality of outcomes. In other words, 80% of the work is done by 20% of the people, okay? I say it's the 95-5 rule, that 95% of the news generated by St. Louis PR, St. Louis Public Radio, is generated by 5% of the staff, that being Jason, almost said Scott again. Okay, but what I'm saying is I go there in the morning, just like you do, and they've got 34 people on the staff, and there's like 5 news stories, and 2 of them are from some news bureau. Get what I'm saying, John?
Yeah, I get exactly what you're saying. And now here, you know what I noticed yesterday in watching, I'm an Instagram guy, and I love Jason Rosenbaum's reels, and you've seen some of them on social media. It reminded me of one of my favorite particular things. I can't talk today. One of my particular things that I love Rosenbaum. Jason Rosenbaum says years correctly. Let me repeat that. He says years correctly. Brad, if you looked at a number on a piece of paper or a computer screen, that was the number, the year, 2017. How do you say that?
2001.
No, 2017.
Oh, 2017.
Thank you, Brad. Do you know how many people today still go around saying 2017? Hey, when did that album come out? 2011. The year that the Chicago White Sox were in the Black Sox scandal. You wouldn't say, oh, yeah, that was the year 1919. No, you'd say it was 1919. When Jason Rosenbaum approaches a number like the year 2010, he was talking about Kehoe getting elected. Instead of saying, there's some people, Brad, that would say, yeah, he was sworn in 2011. No, he was sworn in 2011. And I know it's hyper particular, but it drives me bonkers when people say it the wrong way.
I bet you Scott Fawn has done an article about you, because he's already told me. I got the quote about you're the ultimate proofreader, that you catch. What was that comment? I can't find it right now.
It's a polite way to say I'm a little hyper particular. Yeah, Brad. And you know what? There's a lot of stuff I should let go. Anyway, shout out to Rosenbaum and Brad Hildebrand. The year 2011 is 2011. It's not 2011. Let's get it right, folks.
Well, and you're talking about him. I did see his stand-up last night. I probably saw the same one where he did a nice little rap where he stood up in front of the Capitol and he's got his microphone.
Yes, exactly right. He's so good at that.
And I'm thinking to myself, how is it that if you got 34 people, how could you only have 33 other people grinding out stuff like this every day? And when I say you look at that site every day, John, when you look at it, how many news stories from the day before, how many would you say are there in the morning? I mean, just, you don't have to be exact, just round
on St. Louis Public Radio?
Yeah. I mean, I usually see like 4 or 5. That's pretty much it.
Well, for every day, I would guess that they put out 6 total pieces of content every weekday. And remember, they don't work on weekends.
Well, but see, once again, I'm thinking to myself, there are 34 people there. Each one of them said, if the boss came in one day and said, okay, I want each one of you one web article a day, they could knock out a bunch of stuff. And the other thing about it is, do you know the only person that knows how to navigate once he crosses over the Missouri River into St. Charles County? You know who that only person is?
Jason Rosenbaum. Yes, I know exactly. Now, I think, Brad, if I was coming from that newsroom, first of all, I would be speaking very softly and in a very effeminate tone. But I would say that the role of St. Louis Public Radio is also to do long-form journalism and also do long and involved interviews. And maybe they shouldn't focus on churning out, on feeding the beast, so to speak, of news stories. Maybe they should focus on deeper, more in-depth pieces, Brad.
Well, the article that I refer to is, you probably had this, MoDOT and St. Louis officials say lack of staff and equipment kept streets unplowed. Well, whose problem is that? Once again, I always find this. I had a good friend who at one point in time was a very high up in the Missouri Public Defender's Office. And the reason I mention this is because the public defenders in almost every state, including Missouri, are tremendously underfunded. And if you've ever heard the police stories, the police shows where they read the people the Miranda rights, If you don't have the money for an attorney, guess what? They call in a public defender, okay? And there are gazillion cases that get referred to the public defender. And this person, who I shall remain nameless, who's no longer working for the state or is actually not even practicing law anymore, which I think is sad, but this person told me the story that there's an unknown clause or little-known clause in the state of Missouri that a judge can just essentially assign any licensed attorney a public defender case. So one time she was in front of a judge in Jefferson City and was pleading the case in front of this judge that there were all these cases that were not being taken because the public defender was overloaded. So the judge literally started going through the list of Missouri state employees who had a bar license and calling them into court and saying, okay, here's 5 cases. Okay, here's 5 cases. Okay, here's 5 cases. My point being, there are people who are probably working desk jobs that they could cross-train to drive a truck. You know what I'm saying? Guys,
I know exactly what you meant. But hold on, Brad. You ask whose problem it is about there not being enough snowplows, and I think the answer is Spire. I think it's Spire's responsibility to find every direct or indirect relative of the mayor and the mayor's staff and plow their street first.
Oh, man, here we go. John puts in, okay, here's another one. I heard this story yesterday. I thought to myself, this can't be true. But yet, once again, this will show you government bureaucracy. Oregon, the state of Oregon, I don't know if it's necessarily a state or it's a bunch of municipalities in Oregon, has sent a bunch of their firefighters with their fire trucks to California to help out. Have you heard this story yet, John?
No, I haven't heard this.
But they were mandated to go through Sacramento, which is the capital of California, to have their equipment inspected. They had to have their equipment inspected by
that's good, because the inspections might be different in California, right?
Yes.
You might want to make sure, and they might need to slap a Proposition 55, 65, 75 warning label on there.
But you're making fun of it. But that's the whole point of it. In other words, if you're laying on the ground bleeding and a guy shows up and he's in an ambulance, you're not going to say, "Can I see your paramedic card? Can I make sure you've got your license renewed?" You're going to say, "Dude, I'm glad you're here." Get what I'm saying?
But I do. And the worst part about, now I don't know if you saw this, but because a lot of the schools have been devastated in the California area, they're sending down superintendents from Seattle. Did you see this? And a lot of them, if it gets so bad and they run out of them, the ones in Seattle, they're going to ship the ones from St. Louis to go back through Seattle to pick up a little bit of cash and then come back down to California.
Well, you know what? It's interesting you just mentioned that, because I saw another article yesterday that talked about all of a sudden there's an influx in the state of California of all these LLCs being created by people from Washington State. I wonder.
It's amazing. And you know what? They're flow experts, too. They're experts on how to do fire flow, air flow, water flow.
Right. Okay. Yesterday, I'm driving around taking care of business. I don't know how this came up, but I got this alert on my phone. It's like, hey, there's something going on. You get those all the time. There's a live press conference. Okay. I saw this live press conference of a bunch of guys, and they were all ex-military guys, one Green Beret dude, a bunch of Navy SEALs and stuff like that, having a rally for Pete Hegseth, who goes into under the microscope today. Okay. And this was, several of these guys were current U.S. reps and stuff like that and had various things. And they all came out without a one and talked about how they're very sad to see what's happened in the military. And the one guy said, this is a great quote. He says, "We have to get back to the basics of what the Department of Defense is all about." And he's talking about, we're war fighters. He says, "Our goal is to put," you ready for this?
I'm ready.
"More warheads on foreheads."
That's great.
And I thought to myself, what a great line. Put more warheads on foreheads. And, and they're like, and Pete's this guy. Well, once the interesting thing about it is everybody keeps saying the Democrats go, well, he doesn't have much experience. And at one point in time, there's a funny meme I saw that it's got him, and I don't know how they did this, but there's a picture of him and he's in front of a congressional committee and he's got his shirt off and the Democrats are asking him to explain each tattoo. You know what I'm talking about?
Oh, that's great.
Because there's pictures of him with his shirt off where he's swimming or something like that. And he's got people go, oh, look at that tattoo. That one means this and that one means that.
Yeah, this one's some sort of Christian nationalist sign.
Right. I'm going like, and they're saying he doesn't have experience. And what all these guys said is they said, look, the Department of Defense is essentially, we need to get back to a killing force. And I know some people recoil from that. People, oh my God, it's terrible. But once again, go back to Ronald Reagan. I say it again because of the fact that if you go watch the movie Argo, and which is sort of fictionalized, but there's a lot of truth to it, the detainees, the hostages, were put on the plane on January 20th, 1981, the day that Reagan was being inaugurated. The plane did not take off until Reagan was officially in office. Why was that? Because, sorry to say this about a dead guy, they knew Jimmy Carter was a wimp, and they knew Donald Trump wasn't. Not Donald Trump. Ronald Reagan wasn't a wimp. And they knew, just sort of like right now, you're starting to see the story is today, there may be release of the Hamas hostages, the hostages being held by Hamas in Palestine. It may happen today. And you know what? I say it's going to happen Monday. It's going to happen a week from today or a week from yesterday, because already Trump has said, if I get in office and these guys are still being hostage, he said that a couple weeks ago, didn't he? He said it again. He said, there's going to be hell to pay or something. Isn't that what he said? Some paraphrasing, something like that?
Yeah, he did. And he also said that Brad Hildebrand's got to stop using TikTok. He pointed to the fact that you've been indoctrinating America's youth about TikTok for nearly a decade now.
Which is Sunday.
And you really need to stop it, because he's starting to think, if you start wearing one of those, polyester onesies that the Chi-Coms wear, he's really going to start questioning you, Brad.
John, do you think anybody ever listens to this show?
No, probably not. Probably never.
It's interesting, though. You're a numbers guy. I watch the numbers, and it's interesting to see the number of views of at least on our YouTube version of the show, which you go to bjshow.video. It's interesting to see it climbs and climbs and climbs, and we get more subscribers. Now, are we in the Mr. Beast category? No, not even close. But we're talking.
I don't want to step on what you're saying. Go ahead, Brad.
Well, we're making progress. People are listening, and what's interesting is I can't talk about what John sent me on Friday, but something I said on Friday got the attention of somebody.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention anything, but something I said on Friday got the attention of someone in state government. Correct?
Yeah, let's leave it there.
Okay,
let's leave it there. Let's leave it there.
But once again, maybe you and I have just a little tiny eensy-weensy influence into things. And you know what's more important, John?
What's that?
We let rhinos on the show.
Oh, yeah. And we mean actual rhinos.
Right.
As long as they come on and they're not housed where Henry Shaw used to have his slaves.
Right.
And by the way, Brad, we talk about this all the time, because we're not one of those shows that comes on and talks about numbers and subscribers and whatever, and without thanking the people who promote the show, who talk about the show. I saw around the end of the year, Brad, there were even people whom I promote their shows regularly on my website that went on their shows and talked about how much traffic and downloads they have. And they seem to forget. I wonder who sent people to their radio show. I wonder who sent people to their podcast. I wonder who sent people to go download their show. They seem to forget listeners, but they're really good at congratulating themselves on a certain number of downloads. I don't know. Maybe that's just a radio thing, Brad.
John, I said before, at least I know I do, and I know you try as well, too. We try to take the high road. If Tracy Ellis wants to come on the station right now, come on down. The water's just fine. Jump on in. We'll be more than happy to have you, or Rick, or any of the other people, or Jeff Allen, or Joe Rush, or any of the other people. And once again, you and I promote all these people, but yet would they ever promote us? No, not.
Yeah, well, hey, It doesn't. The bond does not have to be reciprocal, Brad. And all you need to worry about is someday you're going to hear the sound of a fist hitting your face.
J.C. Corcoran's going to.
Now I'm going to be broadcasting yacht rock down in Florida for that, but I don't know. Whatever.
Okay, John, we're out of here. It's at least the live show. We got a best of coming up. I will talk to you tomorrow morning.
All right. See you tomorrow.